الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى.
الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم جاره، أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب زدني علما رب زدني علما رب زدني علما رب زدني عملا رب زدني عملا رب زدني عملا. My dear respected elders, brothers and sisters who listen to my speech, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The ayat I read in front of you and the hadith I read in front of you are informing us about the rights and hukuk of a neighbor. What are the rights and hukuk of a neighbor? I just want to indicate to the ayat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first says that just worship one Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not make any partners in his being or in his attributes to him. Be nice and kind to your parents and orphans and also poor people. Then say wal jari dhil qurba. The three types of jar neighbors are mentioned in this ayat. One is mentioned wal jari dhil qurba, and the other one is mentioned wal jari junubi, and the third one is mentioned was sahibi bil jambi. Wal jari dhil qurba means that neighbor of yours, at the same time he's your neighbor and also your cousin or your relative. He's your relative or she's your relative. So be kind to them. Fulfill their rights. Quran is indicated clear cut. Wal jaril junubi, if you have a jaril junubi who's not your relative, who's not your cousin, but living next to you, alright, maybe you can say in the same street, but is your neighbor. So ihsan is lazim and it's compulsory on us to be kind and make sure we do not harm that neighbor. Also, Jaril Junubi means that that person is not near to you in your religion too. You have a neighbor, he's a Muslim, yes. Because of your neighbor and also Islam, he has more rights. But you have a neighbor, he's a Yahudi, Nasrani, Dahri, Kafir, Hindu, anyone. Because he's your neighbor, she's your neighbor, you still have to fulfill the right, be kind to them. وَصَاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, the third type of person Quran Kareem says is وَصَاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, a person who is your neighbor but not permanently. Meaning that you are traveling somewhere, someone sits next to you, or you are going for Umrah and Hajj and someone's staying with you in the same room, or you are going in Tabligh and the tashkeel of someone is done with you. They are wasahib bil jambi. you have to be kind to them and make sure you fulfill their rights too. These are mentioned in Quran Kareem. And Quran is mujmal. Quran say things briefly. Let's see what hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say. عن أبي ذر رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أبا ذر إذا طبخت مرقة فأكثر ماءها وتعاهد جيرانك. Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala says, remember Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala is a poor Sahabi. According to him, gathering wealth was haram. Alright, that's his own view. Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala says, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Ya Abu Zar, إِذَا طَبَخْتَ مَرَقَةً, whenever you cook what? Curry. فَأَكْثِرْ مَعَهَا, put a lot of water in it. وَتَعَادْ جِيرَانَكَ رواه Muslim. That take care of your neighbor, meaning that make your curry a bit softer, a lot of water, and the more water you have in your curry, you'll be able to give around to your neighbors too. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying in this hadith that to Abu Zar radiallahu ta'ala that one way of being kind to your neighbors is giving them hadiyah and gifts. And even though the gift is not very high, never think of anything low. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to the ladies that never give hadiyah, gifts to your neighbors, even though if it's a small thing, hakir thing, small thing, and you think that this is disgrace. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives the example of hoofs. You know the feet of animal, cattle. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, even if you give them alright, that is a small thing, hakir thing in your eyes, but give that too. That's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam advising the ladies, because they give things out. And the one reason that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, because the mentalities of our sisters is that when they want to give a gift, someone a hadiyah, they say we have to give something good, all right? Especially when it's a dish. They say no, today we haven't cooked all our nights. We have to cook the best thing. Then we're gonna give to the neighbors, and that's never gonna happen. So that's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, even if it's a small thing, even if you haven't cooked something very good, give that to your neighbors is a hadiyah. It will create love. Create the environment of love. That's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. لا تحقرن جارية لجاريتها ولو في السنة شهر. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says. Anyway, in another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, which is collected by Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu قال أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فلا يؤذي جاره. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that whoever has faith on Allah and then on the last day, فلا يؤذي جاره, he should not harm their neighbors. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sitting down and some Sahabi came and mentioned one lady and said, Ya Rasulullah, she's a very great lady. She does a farais. On top of that, she does all the nawafil and tahajjud. She fasts. And on top of that, she does the extra fasting too. She gives the zakat. On top of that, she gives the extra sadaqat too. But there's only one problem. Tu'di jarahu. She harms her neighbor. Her neighbors are not happy from her. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Hiya fi an-nar," she would be in Jahannam. She does all the good ibadat, all the best ibadat. She's just harming, and she's not nice to her neighbor. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Hiya fi an-nar," she's in Jahannam. Then the Sahabas explained another lady. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he just does the basics, the farais, salat farais, zakat farais, and som farais. But she does the basics. She's not giving much. She's not doing much. But her akhlaq, her character towards her neighbors is number one. She's very nice to her neighbors. Her neighbors is very proud of her, and the neighbors want her to be there. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, here fil Jannah, she's in Jannah. So the lesson we learn from this hadith is that it's very important in the eyes of Quran hadith that we do not harm the neighbors. And we are very kind to the neighbors. See how much time I have. One more hadith. Ibn Abbas ta'ala anhu says that my father once, Abbas ta'ala, sent me for some reason by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now you have to understand, Ibn Abbas ta'ala is the first cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abbas is the uncle. So Abbas ta'ala had some message to give to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or asking for something. He sent his son. Now look, Ibn Abbas ta'ala was about 13 years old when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. About 13 years old when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. So he's young. Now that's how the messages used to go up to now. Back home like that too. We used to send the young ones to give messages to the elders. So Ibn Abbas ta'ala says that I went to give a message to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaking to someone, and this is in by the Kaaba. He says bain al maqam wa rukn. So it's by the rukn, and the maqam means by the Hajar al Aswad and maqam Ibrahim. In between that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam standing, and he's talking to someone. Now Ibn Abbas ta'ala, he's young. He's young, less than 13 years old. But he had the etiquette and adab, and he realized that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a very busy person. Let Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam get free, and when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is done from that person, whatever that person is asking and saying, then I will go by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he's basically watching Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Basically, he's by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he's not saying, Ya Assalamu alaikum Ya Rasulullah, or focus, I'm here, I'm your cousin. No. Like, that's what we say, I'm here, I've been here, you should be, I'm here. No, he didn't say that. He waited. And he sees a person by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wearing bidun white clothes. Totally white clothes, dressed in white. Now, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam got done, suddenly sees Ibn Abbas ta'ala, and Abdullah ibn Abbas standing there. And he says, Ya Abdullah, since when are you come? He says, Ya Rasulullah, I've been standing here for a while, and I seen you talking to a person dressed in white, so I waited. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him that, did you see that person? Did you see that person? And he said, yes, Ya Rasulullah. It was so astonishing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to him that person was Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam. And only Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam could see Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam and not lose their eyesight. You've seen him, you're going to lose your eyesight. I make dua, but at the end, your old age, you're going to lose your eyesight. So Ibn Abbas ta'ala died blind. He lost his eyesight. He lost his eyesight right at the end. Anyway, the reason why I said this hadith is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came down here to speak to me. And he was advising me about a jar, about the neighbor. And so much advising me that I was thinking that sayuwarrithuhu, that he might make him inheritor, a waris, inherit after me, instruct me to be a big man. That's how much advice he gave me about being careful and taking care of a job. So all these hadiths which I, 3-4 hadiths which I quoted in front of you, and the Qurani ayat, وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if anyone has iman on Akhirat day, فَلْيُكْرِمْ جَارَهُ. And all these hadiths, فَلَا تُؤْذِ جَارَهُ, all these hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that we should not harm our neighbor in any way, in any matter. And I said, even if the Quran is indicating, if it's a kafir, not harm a kafir, be kind to the kafir, help them out. And I give you a dalil on this too. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma is the sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the son of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He says, they say about him that there was a goat slaughtered, cut in his house. When he come home, instead of sitting to eat, first he says, have you sent any meat to the Yahudi, our neighbor? Yahudi neighbor. Yahudi neighbor. They said no. He said, no, first send to them, then I'm going to eat. So kafir, non-kafir, all the neighbors have right. Now what should we do? Anyone in our neighborhood, we should make sure they don't get harmed because of us. They don't have any kind of taklif because of us. Either because of our noise, either because of our parking, either because of our littering. This is all coming. Number one, either because of our noise in the house or outside the house. Now when we are in the house, our children, we train them that they don't make noises so it harms our neighbors. And we are out, we shouldn't be making any noises to harm our neighbors. Littering, we should be making sure that we do not litter outside or in front of our neighbor's house so they get harmed. We should help. You know, I see in our neighborhood, non-Muslims taking other bins or wheelie bins out for the neighbors, but we Muslims don't help at all. We don't like helping. And this is the attribute of a Muslim, helping, being kind. Non-Muslim helping. If we see our neighbor needs some help, we help them. This masjid is our masjid. Anyone in our neighborhood, we should not harm them. We are coming for salat, we make sure that we are not noisy. When we leave the masjid, we make sure we don't stand in the street or on the pavement in a way that no one can pass. Now, every time when we leave the masjid, we see a whole bunch of gang. They are standing in the pavement, on the pavement, and no one could go through. And the disabled people want to go through too. These are our neighbors. Rasulullah said, do not harm them. Be nice. Learn the etiquette of the Quran, Hadith, and Rasulullah and the Sahabas. So today's speech, conclusion is that Quran is saying that anyone who's your neighbor, وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى, if the neighbor is your relative, cousin, make sure you fulfill their rights, be nice to them, and do not harm them. وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُبِ, if the neighbor is far, is not your relative, but is your neighbor, you fulfill the rights, be nice to them, do ihsan with them, do not harm, even if they're kafir. وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, if you have a neighbor for time being, meaning you're traveling with someone, you're traveling in public transport, and there's a person sitting next to you, do not harm them. Make sure you sit in a way that that person is not harmed. If you see the person sleeping, do not start playing your mobile loudly. If you see the person needs some help, help them. Be nice to your neighbors. You're going for Hajj and Umrah. You'll have people staying with you in the same room, or you're traveling with the same place. You're traveling. Wasahib bil jambi. Wasahib bil jambi. Be kind with them. Make sure you don't hurt them. Don't hurt their feelings. This is what you're going. Your tashkil is done with in Jumu'ah with brothers and sisters, sisters. Whoever you're traveling with, make sure that they are not harmed. Now, for instance, we go for Umrah, we go for Hajj, we go for Tabligh, we go in Jumu'ah. We want to wake up for Tahajjud. Wake up in the way that it does not harm that person. Don't harm the people in your room. They have their own time to go to sleep. They have their own time to rest. And they might not be healthy enough to do that much ibadat, and you can do not harm them. Wasahib bil jambi. I'm saying everything from Quran and hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we need to learn the etiquettes and be kind, etiquettes of the rights of a neighbor, and act on them. Don't just say Islam, 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 and not acting on Islam. Learn how we need to act on Islam and adopt all these etiquettes to our children. Whatever we do, they're going to learn from us. If we're doing it, we have learned it from someone. Our children need to learn it. If we're not going to teach them, who's going to teach them? وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.
الله لا إله إلا هو